Free audio post-production by alphonic.com.
Welcome to Unleashed at Work and Home. I'm Colleen Pilar, and this is where pet professionals come for honest conversations about what it really takes to show up for yourself while serving the animals you love. If you've ever felt caught between compassion and exhaustion, you're in the right place. Here we explore what it means to reconnect with your inner wisdom and rediscover the joy that brought you to this work. Make sure to join my email community at colleenpilar.com for gentle, practical insights designed specifically for pet professionals. Now, let's dive in. Welcome back to Unleashed at Work and Home. My guest today is Jenny Roberts, and she's a CSR at Partners Animal Hospital of Asheville. Welcome, Jenny.
Hi, thank you for having me.
I'm so happy to have you. As I mentioned before we hit record, your role of CSR is the holy grail that I have been chasing for a few years, trying to get someone to come talk to me on the podcast. I think it's a really important role, and it's a pet professional role that a lot of people don't think about, and that it's super important. So for anyone who doesn't know what CSR means, why don't you tell us what that job is and what it is that you do?
Well, CSR stands for Customer Service Representative, but I feel like that's kind of a blanket term for a lot of different businesses that could refer to anything, not just in the vet field. But honestly, I kind of describe it as the mom of the office. You have to keep everything running smoothly. You have to make sure everything is lined up and in order. And if you don't have the right CSR, the entire office can fall apart. Not saying that to toot my own horn. I work with other CSRs that are absolutely amazing and even better than I am. But if I've also worked with some that either are starting out and have no idea what they're doing or think that they're just coming into the role to see cute animals all day long and don't really realize the amount of multitasking that's really involved with that position.
Yeah, it is a major multitasking position, and
Yeah.
it has so many layers to it, like
Yes.
the human layers of, the staff elements, but also the clients and all of that. And then, of course, all the admin pieces of making sure every slot is filled appropriately and
Right.
people are where they're supposed to be and they have what they need. Um, so how did you get into this field?
So I have 2 boys that are now young adults, and when they got into about middle school, high school age, I started thinking, "Well, it's time for me to go back to work. What am I passionate about, and what do I wanna do?" And, dogs specifically have always been a passion of mine. I've always, fostered for a long time. I've just never really been on the professional end of it. So I thought, "Well, I will do the pen foster program," and I went and did for a year, I did their, veterinary assistant program and finished that, I believe, in like 2018 or 2019. And then I started out in the at the Asheville Humane Society in animal care, which is probably one of the hardest physical jobs I think I've ever done. I didn't realize just how hard that job was going to be, but man, I came home exhausted at the end of the day. Um, but I very quickly learned that I was definitely in the right field. I was very passionate about rescue and dogs. Love cats too. Nothing against cats. I'm just definitely a dog person.
Me
Um,
too.
Yep. And then I wasn't in animal care long, and they actually offered me a position in the office, working with their community solutions. And I did that for not very long, but I did really enjoy it. They did a lot of outreach in the community with the homeless and for their pets and vaccine clinics and things like that. Helped people get vouchers for vet care and things such as that. And I really became passionate about helping people that couldn't necessarily afford vet care, but that you could tell loved their animals.
Mhm.
Um, and then when I finished the program with Penn Foster, I got offered a position at a local vet's office, and I wanted to get my foot in the door. That was my plan, was to end up at a vet's office. And I got offered a position there, and I was trained as a vet assistant, and I did that for years, actually. I honestly had no desire to be CSR. I had never done it. I wanted to work directly with the animals. And then after a few years, I had an injury to my ankle, and I was in a boot for quite a while, and it was getting harder on me to be a vet assistant and wrangle the animals and hold and things like that. So they said, "Well, we've had a position open up in CSR. Why don't you go up there for just a little while you're healing?" And I ended up there, and I absolutely fell in love with it, which really surprised me. I'm honestly not a huge phone person. I'm a social person, but I'm not a huge phone person, so I really thought I was gonna dread this position, but luckily, I was placed with a coworker, and her and I meshed really well, and she trained me, and she is amazing. We still speak to this day. And I just fell in love with the position. I think a lot of it was the mom in me that came out. I felt like I was making a difference for that office versus just, I gotta do this room, and then I gotta do that room, and then I gotta, make sure I clean this. And I felt like I overall could help keep the place running a little smoother and a little more organized. And I was surprised at how much I fell in love with it. They offered for me to come back to my vet assistant role, and I did do it every now and again. I was kinda cross-trained, and I would fill in when needed or, if somebody was sick, things like that, but I missed being up front as a CSR, which to this day still shocks me to say, 'cause I have my moments where I wonder, "What am I doing?" But I really fell in love with the position, and I think until you're put into that position or maybe until you know somebody that works in that role, you don't really realize what all they do and what all they deal with. It's not just a little desk job answering phones all day.
Yeah.
Um, but I very quickly fell in love with it and fell in love with building relationships with not just the pets, but the clients as well.
Mhm. I love that. I love how you describe it. And when you said you're making a difference for the whole office, like,
Uh-huh,
they've done some studies on people in terms of meaning and purpose, and they've
mhm.
found that at any level of any job, people can find great meaning in it or not, like,
Absolutely.
either way, but that the highest job satisfaction and life experience is when you can see an impact, and sometimes it's a matter of the lens you use. So there in one of the studies that I read, there was a person who was janitorial in a hospital working in rooms with comatose patients, and
Mhm.
she felt that she made a huge difference in their healing because she kept the rooms clean and she even rotated art in their rooms
Oh,
because
yeah,
if they were to open their eyes, she wanted them to see something different, like that might trigger. And the thought of, like, how we think about our role affects how we feel about our role. And
absolutely.
when you're the mom of the office and
Mhm.
you're helping everything run more smoothly, that is about connection, support, creation, and
Yeah,
impact more than just like answering the phone. I answer the phone.
right.
So, what are some of the jobs that a CSR does that people might not think of? I've never been a CSR. What would I be surprised if you were?
Yeah. So most people think it's just answering the phone and scheduling appointments or taking notes for the doctor, things such as that. But I have a list a mile long each day that has to get done. We're not just scheduling appointments, but believe it or not, people do call and ask for advice. While we're not necessarily going to give out medical advice, I'm not a vet. We do help in calming the person down, letting them know, like, yes, this is an emergency. No, this is not an emergency. We absolutely will handle this for you. We'll get back in touch with you. And I think, especially when people call with a sick pet or something that does feel like maybe it's an emergency to them, hearing somebody on the other end that's calm, but that sounds confident and knows that, hey, we're going to handle this, it really does help that person feel like, okay, this is going to get handled. I'm not alone. I don't have to freak out. Somebody's telling me it's going to be okay. Um, and I noticed that that made a big difference once they came in for their appointment as well.
Mhm.
So we're not only making those appointments, and another big thing is honestly, more than making appointments every day, I have people calling wanting to leave notes for the doctors. And so we
Mhm.
put those notes in, and the doctors are not only, handling a full schedule all day long, plus surgeries and everything else, but they have, they're doing callbacks from the appointments from yesterday, and they're calling back all these people that we put in notes for. So they do get overwhelmed and they do forget sometimes. And I feel like it's good to have somebody in a CSR position that knows to go back and check those notes, make sure it got handled, make sure that the doctor responded or the doctor called them back. And I've had a lot of clients actually tell me, I really wish human medicine was as good as vet med sometimes.
Mhm.
And I'm not putting any blame or anything like any shade on human medicine. I can only imagine how hard that is. And they are overwhelmed. But it's nice to hear that, I am doing my job, doing it well, and making sure people get the responses that they need. Because, and I'll be honest, sometimes things get forgotten and things get missed, and it's a crazy day. But I do love to hear from people like, "Wow, I wish my doctor would make sure that got done," or "I wish," because I mean, I've called my doctor and waited 3 weeks for a response before,
Oh,
and
yeah.
I understand it's frustrating. And when you're worried about something, you do wanna hear back from the doctor just to kinda ease your mind a little bit. Um, but we're also making sure that things get scheduled correctly, and you don't wanna have an emergency on top of, a sick appointment on top of a difficult dog that needs to be sedated. So while it's not always 100% in our control, we do try to make sure that things are scheduled appropriately so that it runs smoothly and you don't have an entire office full of people waiting in the waiting area with dogs fighting. And, you want to make sure you can make it run as smoothly as possible. And you want to make sure that everybody that's called for their medication refills, that you have everything up front and they're not waiting for you to fill a med when they thought it was ready. And a lot of little things like that people really don't realize it involves, and you really have to be good at multitasking, and it can become overwhelming. And I tell people all the time, anybody I've ever trained or anybody that asks me about the job is, you better have a pen and a pad of paper with you all day long, because you're gonna have to write down everything you're doing and come back to it, and you will forget, because most of the time you're doing 4 or 5 things at one time with this position.
That's so cool. Thank you. Thank you for going through all of that.
Mhm.
It is interesting the pictures that were being created in my mind as you go
Yeah.
through those pieces. One question I always like to ask my guests is, when you were 10 years old, what did you think you were going to be when you grew up?
Um, when I was 10 years old, gosh, I don't even know if I remember what I wanted to be when I was little, honestly. It changed all the time when I was little. I always knew I wanted to be a mom, and I fulfilled that role. My boys are great human beings, very proud of them, so definitely did that. I wasn't sure as far as career related if I wanted for a long time, I actually wanted to work with children. It was probably a little older, like young teens when I came to that conclusion. And when I went to college, I actually worked on getting my early childhood education degree. Unfortunately, I did not finish it. I came close, but I quickly realized that that's not what I want to do. My sister works in elementary education, and she is absolutely amazing. And I think those people are wonderful human beings, but I
Mhm.
definitely quickly realized I was not cut out to work with children, that I had much rather work with the furry children.
So what did you wind up doing after college?
After college, I got married, and I got married pretty young. We're still together, been married 24 years, and I became a mom early on. Definitely not the norm nowadays. It was not easy, but I do not regret it. I loved every bit of it, and I stayed home with my boys until they were probably in middle school age. I even homeschooled them for a little while. I totally enjoyed that. So my focus was really on my family for a long time, and then once they got older and didn't need me as much, I, decided that this is what I was passionate about and I was gonna run full force into it, and that's what I did.
That's what you did.
Yeah.
Just very cool. Very cool. So you said you've always been a dog lover.
Yes.
Do you have dogs now?
I do. I have 3 dogs. Actually, if it weren't for my role as CSR, 2 of them I would have never even come across. Um, but I have 3 dogs. I have a standard poodle who is 6 and a half, and his name is Bentley. And a client at the, place I was working at the time found him he was about 4 months old, found him in town, brought him to us to be scanned for a microchip, was not microchipped, and we thought, "Okay, this is a full poodle or doodle or something," and we thought somebody's looking for this dog, so we kept him at the office for a few weeks, and we put out ads and called the shelter and called around to different places and thought for sure somebody would come forward, and nobody ever did, so I kept him, and he is my soul dog. Um, Cannot imagine my life without him, but I have him, and I have a 10-year-old Chihuahua mix. Her name is Bean, and she definitely runs the house. She is the alpha, and the boys do exactly what she says. We've had her her whole life since she was a puppy, and then I also have an 8-month-old Cavalier who has always been my dream dog, even though I know their heart issues. We won't talk about that. I'm still a little bit in denial about that one. But I have an 8-month-old Cavalier, and again, that was, somebody called and was looking to rehome their puppy because their work schedule had changed, and they didn't feel like it was gonna be fair to the puppy to be home, and he really wanted it to go to a vet professional or somebody that understood this breed and understood what all it took to have a puppy, and I never in a million years thought I'd have more than 2 dogs at a time again, and but this came it's kinda fell in my lap, and he wasn't gonna ask any money for him, which I was shocked, so I called my husband, and he said, "Well, we're probably crazy for doing this, but I know how much you've always wanted one of these dogs," and I never thought I would be able to love another dog like I did Bentley, my soul dog, but I've absolutely fallen in love with this little fella. He keeps his name is Scout. He keeps me on my toes. He was just neutered yesterday, so he's actually laying at my feet in his e-collar pouting right now. But yeah, and then we have a three-legged cat. It's actually my son's cat. They recently moved out, so he's not in my home anymore, but I do still take care of him occasionally when they need me to, and he's precious. His name is Timmy. And then we have 6 chickens. So we
6
have
chickens.
a little zoo around here.
Awesome. Awesome. So, what is something that you've learned about yourself or the world as a result of your work with animals?
Um, well, I don't necessarily know that this is gonna be, like, all positive. Some of it I have I have learned that people feel differently about their animals. Each person is different. Some people, especially given where we're from in the mountains of North Carolina, there's still a lot of country folk out here, and some of those people are absolutely the best pet owners in the entire world, and then you still have a lot of the country boys that their dog is it's just a dog to them, and it's an outside dog, and it doesn't get taken care of properly, and to them, it's just an animal, and I have had a hard time I have figured out that I have to be careful judging people. Which is I'll be honest, can be hard for me sometimes, especially when you are super passionate about dogs, to see that they're not always taken care of the best. But I have found if you respond to those people in the right way, and if you kinda meet them where they are, they're more willing to listen to you and understand what you're trying to tell them. So I have found that I am better at meeting people where they are than I thought I would be. It did take some time to learn. I had to teach myself to not just come out with my opinion automatically, that's not necessarily the best approach. But I have definitely taught myself to try and understand people a little bit better. It took some work, but I was surprised at how well I have come to be able to do that.
Yeah, and what a wonderful asset for a CSR role
Yeah.
because people are so different in how they
Yeah. They
in
really
how
are.
they and it's easy to believe, that an outside dog isn't a loved dog, but for many people it
Yeah.
is, you
Yeah,
know?
absolutely.
And, in my world, I can't imagine just keeping my dog outside. Like, that doesn't compute to me in how I would love a dog.
Right.
But, my great uncle did, and he adored me because I was a silly little suburbs girl. Like, he was just like, "Oh my gosh," because I would fuss at him about that his dogs were in kennels out back, and, like, this little 7 or 8-year-old just so upset that his dogs were outside, and he's like, "My dogs have a great life,"
Yeah.
and he adored his dogs, um And his wife did not, and his dogs had a great life outside, and he spent a
Yeah.
lot of time with them, but that did not commute for me at all, and I remember I was so on my soapbox about his dogs at a pretty young age, and he would just be like, "You know what?" And he would drive his dogs in the trunk. Now, admittedly, this is a long time ago
Oh,
because 'cause I'm 59, so if I was 7, this is a long time ago, but he would put his dogs in the trunk and drive them to go hunting and things, and he'd be like, "Well, that's good because then they don't have to listen to us, argue about politics and smoke cigars." And I would be like, "Oh, that's just terrible, you blah, blah, blah." Um, so that idea of, people are different and being
yeah.
able to sort of look at where they are and try to meet them there is such a valuable skill. Do you have any, pointers that you offer people when you're training them to help them kinda step into that because that's such an important piece for the role?
One thing I've always told people, and I have a coworker right now that's has reminded me of this a lot, she's really good about it, is if you need to take a break, get up, walk away, and take a break. That's okay. It may come across as rude sometimes, but sometimes it's better to do that than to say something that you may regret or that could negatively influence somebody, because there's times you're gonna want to do that, but getting up, taking a walk, and just breathe. You've got this. That's what I tell everybody. If I can learn to do this job, anybody can learn to do this job. You just sometimes you just gotta take a moment and breathe and pause. That is a big aspect of this is if you need to put somebody on hold so you can calm down, so be it. But you've gotta learn to stay as calm as possible so that you can meet people where they are, especially if you're having a hard time connecting with them. It takes a
Mhm.
minute to stop, think about what you wanna say, how you wanna react, that kind of thing.
Yeah. Thank you. Thank you. So I ask all of my guests to share some words that have meaning for them, and the words you shared were, "Everyone thinks they have the best dog, and none of them are wrong." And I can already feel ripples of that in the conversation we've had so far. But tell me a little bit about, like, how you came across this particular quote
Yeah.
and what it means to you.
So it's something I heard a long time ago. I did not come up with it, but I heard it and it just immediately resonated with me that I love to watch people brag on their animals, almost like a parent does with a child. Um, It really is. I mean, I'm a mother and I'm a dog mom, so I do understand the difference in the 2. There is a difference. But you do love your animals like they are your children, and I understand that, and, I want people to understand that when you come into our office, if you wanna talk about your dog or brag about your cat or that's what we're here for. We love that. I want you to be passionate about that. And I love to see that when everybody comes in and we make a big deal about their animal, like, "Oh my gosh, they got a haircut. Look how cute they are," or, "Oh my gosh, you've gotten so big," that it makes people wanna talk about them even more, and it just reminds me of a mother doing that with their toddler when their toddler says a new word or does a new skill. I think it's really awesome that everybody feels as passionate about their dog as the way they do, because, most people do feel that way about their dog. You do think, "I
Mhm.
really have the best dog in the entire world," and you're not wrong. To you, that is the best dog in the entire world because you've built that special bond with them, and I just think it's amazing that here on Earth, God gave us creatures that we can actually bond with, that they're not just there for us to eat or, use their fur for something. And while there are animals for that purpose, I love that we have animals here that we genuinely connect with and have a bond with. And so they're right. They are the best dog in the world.
Mhm. And the best dog in the world in your house, Bentley, has been playing behind you
You
so
see him?
adorably while you were talking. Yeah, he's got some sort of toy, and he just keeps taking it back and forth, and he's like, "Oh, look, I have this." He's self-entertaining. He's not, being demanding of attention, but he is
Exactly.
being delightful and so cute
There
with
he
his
is.
toys. Yeah, he's so sweet. So, I love that. I love it is so much about relationships and each is unique, so everyone thinks they have the best dog because they each have a unique relationship with their
Yeah.
dog and isn't that wonderful? None of them are
Yeah.
wrong. So, if I had a magic wand and you could bestow a blessing or a wish upon pet professionals of all types, what would you give us?
Hmm, that's a good question. I wish more vet professionals could know how much of a difference you do make in people's lives because let's say in one full business day, you're going to have more good reactions with people and their pets than you are bad, but you're definitely going to have the bad. And
Mhm.
unfortunately, even if it's just one bad experience during the day, unfortunately, that one bad experience tends to weigh on us way more than the positive experiences do. And that's what you go home thinking about. And that's what you lay in bed at night thinking about. But I want people to realize just how much of a difference you do make and all of the good that you're doing. It's not just that one bad experience. There's gonna be bad. It's inevitable. We live in a world where nothing is perfect. So you're gonna have, clients that are not easy to deal with. You're gonna have animals that are not easy to deal with. You may misdiagnose an animal or get bit by an animal and the animal has to go, be reported to animal control or whatever. You feel horrible, you have this guilt, and it just weighs on you. But I would love to encourage people to stop and think about all the good that happened that day or that week and not just that one bad thing because the good should outweigh the bad. I know that's a lot easier said than done, but like you said, if you had a magic wand and could just make people remember that or understand that, that would definitely be what it is. Because I hate to see or hear from my coworkers that they went home thinking about something that happened that day, because it does affect the rest of your day.
Yeah.
No matter how hard you try for it not to, it's hard for that to happen.
Yeah. That is so true. And the negativity bias does set our brains up to focus on that one
Yep.
that didn't go well, and statistically, it's 6 to 8 positive things are required to counterbalance one negative. Like that, our
Yeah.
brain
Uh-huh.
values the negative so intensely. So having a way of capturing, noticing, and appreciating the good really matters, and it's important to do. And finding that. Do you have any structured ways that your team does that at work to notice what went well or to prioritize that?
Fortunately, yeah, fortunately, we have an amazing team at work. Um, Unfortunately, in the vet field, there can be a lot of negative atmosphere in a vet's office. I have seen that, I have experienced that, I have, heard it from other people, and a lot of times you can have the nursing team pitted against the CSR team, pitted against the doctors, and I'm very blessed that I work in a place that that is not a thing. By no means are we perfect. Do we have good days and bad days? Absolutely. But the doctors and our amazing office manager, she is so wonderful. They do a really good job of making sure to mention what we're doing right, not just what we're missing. Especially our office manager. She's so wonderful. But I think again, it's because she's been in this business for so long and she's kind of done it all that
Mhm.
she understands just how important not only my role is, but every single role and how you have to work together. In a CSR position, we're the one really we could make or break your day, by scheduling things a certain way. And if you don't want to make your CSR team mad, honestly. And I've seen a lot in previous places I've worked where if the CSR is mad at you, it'll show on that schedule. So it's really important to keep a positive environment, I think, in a vet's office. And our management team does a really great job of building us up, making us feel like you're making a difference. Or if we have something bad that happens, they have our back. If we need to be corrected, they'll correct us and they'll, do what needs to be done. But they're good at about having our back and making us feel like, hey, it's okay. There's nothing you could have done differently that would have changed anything. So if this, I don't know who all's going to hear this, but if you're in management out there in the vet world, just know that that makes a huge difference for a CSR, is making them feel appreciated and letting them know, hey, what you're doing really is making or breaking this place, and we appreciate it.
Hmm. Thank you. Thank you. Yeah, that's really helpful.
Yeah.
Love that. So if people wanted to learn more about you and your work, how could they do that?
So you could always go to our website of where I work. It is partnersvetavl.com. There are several partners hospitals in the United States. I want to say there's maybe 7 or 8, but we're located in Asheville, North Carolina. And there is a little bit on the website about each staff member. So if you ever, wanted to learn more about me, you could do that and learn more about our team. We absolutely have I know I keep saying this, the best team ever, but I love my coworkers. We come from all different backgrounds. We're all different, but we all click and we all get along. Um, and I think that place, I just want to give them a big shout out. It is an
Hmm.
absolutely amazing place to work. And I absolutely love, I get on about once a week and read our Google reviews just because I love to hear the difference that the team I work with is making in people's lives around Asheville.
Yeah. And it really is important. It does make a difference. And in
Yeah.
fact, I found you through one of your clients, which is lovely.
Yeah, Kim.
So,
Mhm.
yeah, so a previous podcast guest is a client of your clinic. And when I mentioned to her that I was looking for a CSR, she was like, I know who you should talk to. And what a lovely compliment that is,
Yeah.
that someone is like so happy with the service that y'all are providing.
Yeah.
So yeah, so that was Kim Brophy.
Yep,
So I'll
she's
I'll link
wonderful.
I will link her episode to this one just in the show notes so that you have that, because Kim has lots of interesting things to share as well. But this was so nice, Jenny. Thank you so much for talking with me today. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, absolutely.
That's our conversation for today. If something we talked about resonated, I invite you to sit with it. Notice what feels true and what you want to explore further. You don't have to have it all figured out to start moving toward what matters. Whatever showed up for you today, clarity, questions, even resistance, trust that it's pointing you towards something important. For more support, join my weekly notes at colleenpilar.com. And until next time, remember, you are enough. Always, just as you are.
Free audio post-production by alphonic.com.